Okay. So, hi guys, it's Lisa Demmi here, speaker, author, change artist, DEI talker, and actual art artist too. And I started thinking about the whole DEI space, which for some of you who don't know, DEI is diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it seems like the world is opening up a little bit more to those strategies. And so I wanted to talk to someone in the event space who is been around for a while doing this, since a child, I think. Bonni Sofka with Stellar Meetings and Events. And Bonni has run, how many meetings have you run, Bonni, that you know? How many events have you run?
1,000 in my entire career, probably. Yeah. Figure an average of about 20 a year for 30 years.
That's a few meetings, yeah. Hi, Bonni.
Hi, Lisa.
In full disclosure, Bonni and I are friends. We've known each other for a long time now, but Bonni knows the events, the planning meetings, the whole thing. She knows this back and forth and probably has forgotten more than I've ever even known. So I wanted to bring in someone who was credible and someone who knew what she was talking about, and that's you, Bonni. So Bonni, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about yourself first before we get on the conversation?
Okay, well, I'm a Scorpio. I'm sorry. I've been planning meetings for over 30 years. I've been on my own as Stellar Meetings and Events for 23 years in January of this past year. I focus mainly in the life sciences because that's who I know and what I know. Do a lot of work with startups and companies that are preparing to sell. And I do really enjoy the culture building part of that startup process, which includes a lot of conversations about diversity and inclusion.
Awesome. And I've been on one of your meetings. For those of you, I said I was an artist and I did some artwork for Bonni for one of her meetings a couple of years ago. And I got to see her working like live, and she's pretty powerful. It was pretty cool to see it. I was like, "Aw." But back to the DEI stuff. So I wanted to talk to you, Bonni, because I see that the space is really opening up, and a lot of people are talking about how is the diversity, equity, inclusion affecting the events industry. And I thought you maybe could shed some light. Like, are you seeing people looking for more DEI speakers? Are you seeing more events opening up and like welcoming a broader range of people, or trying to attract a broader range of people? What do you see going on there?
I do, especially when we're talking about hiring speakers. What I've noticed in the past few years versus 10 years ago is that I don't really need so much to bring up diversity. So 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it was what I like to call the mantle, the straight white guy panel. Everybody was 50. Everyone looked the same. Everybody was a white straight man as far as we knew. And it wasn't in question. And I used to say, how about, since we're in STEM, how about we focus on some women in STEM? How about we focus on people of color in STEM, since they were the minority for a long time and it's starting to build up. Let's have some representation. And people were never against that. It's just that it hadn't crossed their minds. And what I find now more than ever, especially in HR departments, especially in training, especially at higher levels where they have been through a lot of these discussions, they're mentioning it to me from the beginning. They're saying, let's not have the mantle, in their own words.
Okay, got it.
Important to say that that's not to exclude straight white men.
Right.
They're supposed to be there as well. That's
sure.
Never diversity for diversity's sake.
Right. There's a piece of the pie for everybody.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
There's a pie.
You mentioned who is typically saying, Bonni, we want to hire you to manage our event. You said HR people. Is it the HR people? And do you think by virtue of their position, that's why maybe they're more open to what's going on in the world of employees and organizations? Or is it a CEO or everywhere in between?
Generally, I'm working with CEOs and CMOs, chief marketing officers. Those are
Okay.
generally at least my entree into the company. And
Mhm.
they're involved in all the conversations. I may then get moved over to someone who's handling the day-to-day, but more than ever, HR is involved on every
Mhm.
level. They're part of the committee, if you will, or they're part of the team that's designing the content, or that I'm working with to design the content of a meeting. So I think it came about less for diversity's sake and more for let's be careful what we say, but also let's reinforce our culture.
Mhm.
The HR people are going to be more cognizant of the culture they're trying to build in the company than anyone else. So
Do you see the go, I'm so sorry, go ahead. It's the
no,
Italian in me.
but what you said about the HR people being more educated and more knowledgeable and more front of mind with diversity is absolutely true.
Okay. Are,
But sometimes
are,
they'll come to me with a list of speakers and it'll be a blend of people,
oh, interesting. Okay.
especially
So
if it's
they're
technical.
the ones who are spearheading the diversity then, if you will.
It's a
No?
50-50 sometimes,
Okay.
more than
Okay.
ever. Some never think of it.
Okay.
A lot of it depends
Interesting.
on the individuals and the companies. No one fights it. Although sometimes you'll bring up diversity and they'll say, they'll roll their eyes a little bit like, oh, here's that catchphrase again. And there's a lot of conversation around it not being a catchphrase. And, it's not a bucket of things we're supposed to be doing. It's a natural progression of us growing as people. In the world, forget in the business world, but the world is inclusive, or the good parts of the world are inclusive. And companies had to modify to become inclusive as well. And most of them came into inclusion happily and joyfully. They're not kicking and screaming. There are some who have to be reminded over and over again, who will debate it. But if I bring you a speaker who is an absolute expert in their field, who's great on stage, who is bringing business direction, who is reinforcing what they're trying to say, and that person is in a wheelchair, or is a woman, or is a person of color, or is a person with an accent, or a person LGBTQ plus person, no one's questioning that. Nobody's saying, bring me a white man.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's incumbent, I think, upon us as planners, or as influencers at least, to bring those people to the table. Because if I offer you 20 white guys, that's your field.
Right.
And sometimes you
Right.
need to look a little bit harder, depending on where your business is. If you're in hospitality, women and gay men are your majority. So you might want to bring a straight white guy in the room.
Right.
Because that's your
Yeah.
diversity, right?
Sure. Sure.
But in the life sciences, there are more and more and more people who do not present as the old manels did, as those
Right.
old panels of tall gray-haired white men. Bring in a short guy.
It's funny when sometimes, I don't know if you've ever been given this exercise, people are like, all right, I want you to picture a surgeon and tell me what the surgeon looks like. And everybody always thinks older man, right?
Right.
And it's funny because they go, well, the surgeon's name is, and it's a female name. And I think that so many people just assume, particularly I think in technology, well, maybe not in technology. I think technology actually, and this might be my own prejudice, please let me know, or my own bias, let me know if I'm doing that. But I think I think technology are the younger, everybody's like, oh, the hipsters, or they look like, the guys from Twitter, or the guys from Facebook or whatever, but still outside of Sheryl Sandberg, you don't really see a lot of that.
Right.
So I feel like the technology arena is maybe more open to different looking people. Like the bankers associations, which, that I know that's not your forte, but I wonder the companies, like you said, it's about 50-50, where they're saying, yes, we want someone who's diverse, and the other 50 don't even have a clue.
Right.
So I wonder how that maps onto any other industries. Is it as open as it is in others?
I feel like it's more age-based than anything else. So I'm 60,
Mhm.
right? So my peers are used to the standard surgeon looking person, what we picture in our head when we say surgeon. At 60 is a distinguished looking white man with gray hair and glasses, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
At 50, at 40, now get back to 30 to 25, they didn't grow up with just
Yeah,
that guy.
they have
So
a wide, broad
there's an
range. Yeah.
innate openness.
Mhm.
They don't have to be taught
Right.
inclusion. They don't have to be taught to not make presumptions about someone's race or gender or sexuality. They're not, for the most part, they don't. When I say they don't care, I mean it doesn't impact their opinion of you as a
Gotcha.
person who is not whatever the opposite of diverse is.
Undiverse?
And well,
Is that a word?
you don't want to take those people who are like you don't want to minimize
Right.
straight white guy.
Mhm.
You don't. Straight white guy
No.
is very often the man for the job. He's very often the person for
Right.
the job. No more or less than trans woman of color.
Right.
Who's better for the gig? Who's bringing the message? Who's bringing it properly? Diversity for diversity's sake is a dangerous thing. But we have to, those of us who are making these introductions, we have to bring a variety of people to the table.
Mhm.
Because the guy in the wheelchair may be the best speaker, but if I didn't introduce them to the room and all they know are the stereotypical speakers,
Mhm.
that's on me. That's on me.
Gotcha.
I have to put more work, I think, into making sure that I'm bringing a variety of people to the table. And I find that once they're at that table, no one's looking at them any differently.
Right.
The
That's
biggest
good to know.
challenge is getting them to the table. And that is incumbent upon people like me. It's incumbent
Mhm.
upon your HR department. It's incumbent upon your, whoever it is that is putting together the content of your meeting. We need to put that work in to make sure that we're not just going through the yellow pages of speakers, that we're looking for, a variety of different perspectives, because it's not
Mhm.
just that you're a person of color. It's that your entire experience is different than mine. Your
A
life,
different perspective.
your
Yeah.
life experience is completely different, and therefore you bring a different perspective, a different kind of
Mhm.
maybe openness, or a different eye to how things are in whatever your field is. And so
So, Bonnie,
you're missing
I'm
out.
gonna stop you a minute, because I know you, and I know you are very open and very, a forward thinker. Do you think other people in your industry are doing the same thing that you're doing, or are they just offering up the same people, and not necessarily just the old white guys? Because to your point, old, I feel horrible saying old distinguished older gentlemen, like you said. There absolutely is a place for them. I don't think that the DEI people are saying, because we want a seat at the table, that the distinguished older gentleman can't. That's not what we're saying.
Exactly.
But my point is, do you think, you mentioned it was an age thing. and you said you're 60, I'm 60 also. So I understand where you're coming from. Do you think it's like, are the event planners who are younger, or, I don't necessarily think it's an age thing in my situation, but do you think that other event planners are doing the same thing, or are they still stuck in that old, here's the people we've always offered to you, here's the people you've always had, we're going to give you this list of people?
You're always going to have the difference between someone who is purely logistics and checking off boxes, and the people who are, and there are many in our industry. I can name 20 extraordinary planners off the top of my head that do that due diligence and think outside of the, this is the way we've always done things, or the not invented here syndrome, right? There's so many people who do what I do and are always looking to see where we are as a people, in addition to where are we as a company, and where is our client as a company, and who do we want to be, and what do we want our culture to be? There's a ton of us. Having said that, and I'll get slapped for this, but I think the majority of planners are checklist meeting planners. Not my friends, not the people, not my colleagues, but there's tons of them who are just saying, I need a speaker. Who are the speakers I know in our field? Here's the list of people I know. Other people will say, okay, here's the topic, or here's what we're trying to get across. Let's just start Googling. I used to walk through bookstores. That's how I'd find my speakers. I'd walk through bookstores and look at the nonfiction, or sometimes even fiction, and see, how could I incorporate that story into this meeting? That was my favorite way to find speakers. I did that forever. But Google is that as well.
Or podcasts now, huh?
Or podcasts, or, your friends on LinkedIn. I tell people all the time, go through my LinkedIn, see who's interesting to you. And that goes for, you're looking to hire somebody, you're looking for a speaker, you're looking for a planner, you're looking for a chief scientific officer for your startup. There's so many resources available to us. Sometimes I Google a phrase. I found some great speakers just Googling, this is what I want to say.
And that's how you find your interesting.
Yeah, we have to go deeper than the speakers bureaus.
So let me ask you this then. Is there, I feel like there's a delay. What can speakers, so now speaking from the speaker's point of view, what can the speakers do? Because maybe also the speakers need to be pushing that as well. Instead, like, we shouldn't be waiting for you guys to come to us. Yeah. What can we as speakers do? Those of us who are in the DEI arena, how can we make it easier for you to find us? Or how can we make it easier for your clients to go, oh, wow, yeah, that's the one I want right there.
Right. Write as much as you can. You're great at it, write. Okay. And also, and subtitle what you're putting out. So at least the words are out there. We're searching very often for specific words. I am not looking, not the industry. The industry is. I am not looking for the words diversity, inclusion, or
equity.
Equity. I don't know why I always lose that one. I'm not looking for that, but I am looking at your picture. I am looking at your story, because I am looking for the best speaker. But I think the best speaker is just as often someone who falls into that DEI category as someone who does not. So I don't have to look for that. Having said that, other planners are using DEI in their searches. Absolutely.
I just read a report on speakers. Lois Kramer posted a report on the events industry, and it said 56, I want to say it was 56% of events, they're looking for DEI speakers. 56% of events, I couldn't figure out the math because of like 50, 50, 30, like it added up to 215 or something. but it was like 56% of the speakers were adding for DEI. And I was like, that's pretty interesting. I wonder if last year that would have been, or even 2 years ago, that would have been the case, because last year I remember it was still leadership and change, because, you know, that COVID thing happened. And, you know, so people were like looking at, how do I survive COVID and how do I survive the funk I'm in now? To see that DEI is, you know, on the top of the list, I was like, wow, that's interesting.
It should be in everything. I'm just saying that I personally, but my process is weird compared to other people, I think.
Okay, thank you. That's it with Bonni then.
That's it. Because I'm in a very tight niche, right? So it's very
Yeah.
different. But I'm with all these other planners, and they are searching DEI, and they are looking for woman. And I do look at these things once I find you, woman-owned business, LGBTQ plus friendly, any of the words that go along with that. You know, maybe you're an Indigenous person. It should be in there. It should be searchable that way, especially if it's applicable to your topic or to what you're saying. The fact that I don't look for it just means I'm spending more time looking. I'm spending much too much time on Google, searching around for the story I want to tell. There's always a story I want to tell. But the outcome is the same. I am finding you.
Good.
But yes, you should be using all the acronyms, all the words, all of them somewhere in there so that it's searchable for those who are making sure they tick that box. It's just as important a box for me. I just think I'm finding it more organically.
It seems to me like you are already open to looking for different kinds of speakers. You're not actually just looking for different speakers. You're just open to whatever speakers you find. And like you said, it's not diversity for diversity's sake. It's diversity because it actually just happens organically. I want to be, you know, I promised you that I would be mindful of your time today, and I want to do that. But I want you to tell me, or tell whoever's listening. So what do you see? Like, what is your maybe state of the industry or prediction of the future of the industry with regard, like, is DEI going to be like, are we not going to even be talking about that anymore? Because people are going to be like, it just doesn't matter. It's just, it's a given thing.
God, I can hope, right? We can hope that we get past that stage. I think it's going to happen organically for a majority of the population. Especially as our generation ages out. Because we're open, but you can't really say that as our generation as a whole, right? There's still a lot of built-in prejudice, a lot of built-in stereotyping that's programmed from our parents and our grandparents and TV into our DNA. You know, you never see a Black person on Friends, right? So we're used to this, you know, polished white world. I'm lucky that I've always been surrounded by all kinds of people. Our children, our grandchildren, they're always going to be surrounded more and more and more. You're still going to have the white only neighborhood, and you're still going to have the, you know, boys club, and all of those things are still going to exist, but it's going to, I feel like it shrinks exponentially every year. And the more of us who retire and move out and leave room for more open-minded people, the better it's going to get. And it is going to become a natural progression, just like, you know, 100 years ago when it was the Irish need not apply. Nobody thinks about that anymore. We have outgrown that. It took a long time, but it was a thing, right? The Italians, you know, people from India used to be very much discriminated against in the workplace until people realized the individual value of those individual people and stopped putting them all together in one group. So yeah, I think it's a time thing. I think it's a time thing.
I have to say that it makes me hopeful and grateful and thankful, all the fulls, that there are people out there like you who are, I feel like we have to be the example for the guys coming up. You know, and I love that you and all of your colleagues, I know plenty of your colleagues, and they're all just amazing human beings. And I'm not surprised to hear that they are doing the same thing that you're doing, because you guys all have a true love for humans in general. And, you know, I think that it's good to have someone like you and your colleagues to be able to like kind of light the paths, if you will, for the new guys. And I think you're totally on target. I think, you know, when my niece and nephew, my sister had to have the talk with them about that Aunt Boo Boo. Yes, my nickname is Boo Boo from my.
Nice to know.
It's out. I've said it. I said what I said. But they found out that Aunt Boo Boo was gay, and they're like, yeah, okay, whatever. Can we
You're
go play
gay?
our games now? Yeah, I am. Yeah, I probably should have told you before this recording this. But they're, you know, they're 13 years old. They don't care.
No,
They don't care.
not
They
at all.
just don't care what, you know. And then I went to a funeral this weekend, and one of my dad's friends was there, and he's, you know, 80 something years old. And he asked me if my husband was with me. And I said, well, I'm married to a woman. He was like, oh, but you're so pretty. Like it was a waste that I was, you know. And so you know, you can see the difference between 80
Yeah,
and 13. And
right.
you see, you know, he's a lovely man, by the way. He's a wonderful man, but you can see the
Yeah.
gap between the ages. So I feel like you're totally on target with that, Bonnie, that, you know, as the younger guys start coming up, and I'm doing a lot of Italian symbols right
That's
now with my
okay.
hands.
Jews do it too. I got you.
Yes. So I think that we are in good hands. That being said, I don't feel like we can, you know, give up the fight or
No.
stop pushing the, you know, the I don't want to say the agenda, because it's not an agenda, but
No, we have to set an example. We have to.
yeah.
There are still entire states, Florida, who are trying to, well, you know what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
There's still an enormous number of people trying to stop progress and stop inclusion and protect their place. Because you know, it's that old expression, there's enough love and life and work and everything to go around. This is not pie. We're not going to run out. We're not taking anything from you by including other people. You know, it's so there's always going to be that level of exclusion. So we do have to be vigilant. And it's many years before those 13-year-olds take over.
Right.
So we have to continue to be vigilant. We need to continue to make sure that that people like me can be, because I'm, you know, middle-aged white woman, a straight white woman, cis straight white woman. I have to be an ally. We have to be allies. We have to fight as if it is us. We have to stand up for other people as if our lives, careers, happiness, joy depends on it. Because I can say this because we're far enough past COVID, but it is part of the drinking game. We are all in this together. We have a responsibility to use our voices as the stereotypical norm to stand up for everyone.
Yeah, not just whomever you're representing. You know, I think that's really important. I think, you know, I always say I don't just fight for gay rights. I don't, you know, I know Black people who don't just fight for Black rights, or you know, people who are differently abled, or what have you. I think it's you know, the DEI. I was just having a conversation, and my DEI isn't just fighting for certain groups. my DEI story is fighting for humans, period.
Nice.
And I think that that's what I'm so passionate about, is not so much, let's take care of the Blacks, let's take care of the gays, let's take care of the distinguished elder gentlemen, white gentlemen. Let's take care of everybody, period. And I think that's kind of the thing that I would love to see, is people just see people as people, you know? So, all right, so I'm off my soapbox now. Bonni, thank you so much for the insight. I mean, I've known you a long time and I learned a lot of cool stuff today. Where can people find you if they are looking for you?
stellarmeetingswithans.com.
Okay.
It's my website.
And are you on social media or anything, or is that the play at LinkedIn, or is it just you prefer
I'm a
the
social
website?
media loser. LinkedIn is a great place to find me. Bonni with
Okay.
no E. And
Okay.
Scepkowski, it's spelled out right about there.
It's not showing up.
Oh, it's showing up
Let me
on
see.
mine.
Here it is. There it is. There it is. There it is. It's showing up. So Bonni, Bonni, Scepkowski is Scepkowski.
Or
And
Bonni at
I'll put it in the
stellarmeetings.com.
Bonni at stellarmeetings.com. Bonni, thank you so much for doing this today with me. Thank you for putting on makeup to do this with me today. I did as well. You look lovely.
We're fabulous.
And even more than that, thank you for just being like a really amazing human being, and for making a difference in, in your everyday just doings and beings. I think that, everybody can make a difference no matter what job they have, no matter where they are in life. And you're definitely one of those people. So I appreciate you. I love you. And
I love you.
I hope to see you in person soon.
I got a room for you. Come on over.
Okay.
Bring your husband. Bring Lynn.
I will do that.
Thank you.
I'll see you, Bonni. Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much. If you have more questions about what we're talking about, feel free to put it in the comments here, or you can reach out to Lisa at lisademmi.com. And that's LISADEMMI.com. See you guys soon. Thank y'all so much.